Thank you, Miss Monica, for the introduction. And can I say, you can sure bust a move, unlike myself, unless I've had, a few of these, then I'm fabulous, according to myself. I know many people probably have done this already, but I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're meeting on today and pay my respects to elders past and present. A happy Children's Week, nearly at an end, so what a way to celebrate that, and the fact that human rights are children's rights. I do love coming to children's services events because it's full of fun and creative people and singing and toys. So what more could this inner child want? I'd also like to thank Ethnic Community Services Cooperative, and I was just talking to Vivi before about how that new name is sitting, and she was saying how really it's rolling off the tongue now, at least a lot better than the old one did. And also Children's Services Central for the invitation to today's conference, and this part of it in particular, which is to launch the important new resource, the Keys to Inclusive Practice, the subject matter you've been talking about all today. And which I think is a fantastic resource. I've had the opportunity to have a little sneak preview, unlike yourself, so do not touch those boxes until I say so. Why do I think this resource is so important? Well, as we've discussed, and I was listening to the panel, it might seem obvious that inclusive practice should be a natural component of early childhood care and education. And of course we would want all children to feel that they're accepted, they belong, that they're fully participating in their developmental journey alongside their peers. And from a child's rights perspective, the concept of inclusion is fundamentally linked to our capacity to deliver equality of opportunity, avenues for meaningful participation, and that word we heard in the song just before afternoon tea, RESPECT, respect for each and every child. As National Children's Commissioner, and it's such an honour for me to have this role, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child is the basic building block for everything that I do. And the Convention talks directly to the issue of inclusion of children from all backgrounds and abilities. Non-discrimination, which is set out under Article 2, is one of the Convention's 4 guiding principles. And as a guiding principle, it should apply to all rights in the Convention. Under the Convention, children's rights must be respected and ensured, regardless of race, colour, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national, ethnic or social origin, property, disability, birth or other status. And given the diversity of children who inhabit our communities, and I think some of the photos there we were seeing, they are a diverse group of little people, achieving genuinely inclusive spaces and places for every child can be challenging. Early childhood practitioners probably know better than most that just like grown-ups, children are diverse and unique. Every child has distinct likes, strengths and abilities and backgrounds. Although in my experience, most do, it seems, appear to enjoy chocolate. It's a common bond, a human right that we all share. So the Keys to Inclusive Practice resource is a powerful tool for recognising and promoting the rights of children to non-discrimination and inclusion. Each key focuses on an at-risk group of children. For instance, children from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children, refugee children and children with disabilities, as well as promoting gender equality and equal opportunity at a broader level for all children. We know that particular groups of children or particular children can face barriers that place them at risk of harm or exclusion. They may be subject to both direct and indirect discrimination, racism and prejudice. These children are vulnerable to doors of opportunity being closed to them, sometimes deliberately and sometimes inadvertently. The keys are intended to challenge the assumptions we make, and we all make them, as well as preconceived expectations and prejudices and biases we might hold, and to help us understand the impact of our actions on vulnerable children and their families. I'm privileged to talk to many children and young people in my job, and it's an incredible joy, and I'm sure you'll agree it's the great thing about your jobs as well, getting on the floor, as it were, and talking to kids. But in particular, I've talked to many children who've arrived in Australia as refugees or asylum seekers. These are some of the most resilient and inspiring children and young people I have ever met. They are full of hope for the future and eager to learn and fit in. However, they're also at serious risk of exclusion and marginalisation. Many have experienced the trauma of their journey to Australia and their detention in many cases. Many have faced racism and discrimination. Often, they are deeply anxious about their futures and those of their families. Many have limited or disrupted educations and little English. The Keys to Inclusive Practice resource challenges child service educators to question how we are sensitive and accepting of the journeys of refugee children and their families. And it was interesting on the panel about there was some advice on how to engage families about those stories in sensitive ways without offending them or distressing them. The Keys show us that by acknowledging their stories, however, we make them feel welcomed and understood, and that they will know that they are in a safe environment. The Keys to Inclusive Practice help educators to respect and include all cultures so that children can feel accepted and celebrated. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children consistently tell me that their culture keeps them strong. Recognising the connection between culture, identity and family connection is vital to the well-being and development of Aboriginal children. Like all children, they want to be proud of who they are and where they come from and have their culture recognised and respected. Educators, therefore, need to be aware of this connection and ensure that Indigenous perspectives, heritage and language are incorporated into practice. There are many children and young people who are vulnerable to having their rights breached on a daily basis, whose voices are not heard and whose stories are not told. That's why the Keys to Inclusive Practice is such an important resource. With these keys, children's services educators can unlock the skills and knowledge they need to create an inclusive environment for all children to participate, to learn and to thrive. By ensuring that we provide programs and curricula that are relevant and respectful and recognise and build on children's individuality, we help all children to realise their rights and potential. I want to commend Ethnic Community Services Cooperative and especially Manny and Penny from Bicultural Support for developing the Keys to Inclusive Practice resource. This resource is sure to quickly become a must-have and a bestseller for educators seeking to promote holistic inclusion and equity for all children. As educators, and everybody is in the room or they're a leader of educators, you pass on the keys to inclusion to the children in your care. These keys will not only help open doors to individual children who may otherwise miss out and have doors closed on them, but they will also encourage children to practice acceptance and respect as they grow older by opening doors to others. In doing this, we equip both us and them with the keys to a more inclusive and equal society for us all. I want to thank you for having me, and apparently this is the time when the official launch thing happens and I get to get a key from the first box. Then you get your chance. I'm going to read out to you what's on it. I'll put my glasses on now because it's a bit smaller than the writing on my paper. Okay, so how do you want me to do this? Okay. Which key to inclusion will I unlock today? That's the first one. The next one is this key. And it says original. And the questions that it asks us are, how are you committed to providing Indigenous perspectives as part of an inclusive, holistic curriculum? How do you endeavour to embrace and explore the cultural heritage and identity of every child in your service? And I hope you will go away from today thinking about how you will be able to do that. Now it's up to you to dive into the boxes and get out the keys to inclusion. Thank you.